Hey everybody, I'm Scott Weichel. You're listening to My Kind of Country on MKOCRadio.com. A distinct pleasure to have this lady on the show with me tonight. She is a tremendously talented singer, songwriter, producer, performer. She's done it all. She's been in the business for a long time with so many great hits, and she is continuing to stay busy. A lot of great things coming up for her, and we're going to talk about all that and talk about her career and just some really cool stuff today. It's my pleasure to welcome Deborah Allen to My Kind of Country. Deborah, how are you tonight?
Scott, I'm doing great, and I'm even doing better now that I'm talking with you. I'm so excited to be on your show.
Well, it is a pleasure to have you. We have finally been able to work this out. We've been trying for a while, and our schedules finally meshed.
Exactly, and at the perfect time of year. It's my favorite time of year.
Me too. And you have a lot of things coming up. I know you've got a Christmas show coming up, and that's on, I believe, December 15th at the Franklin Center.
Yeah, it's at the beautiful, historic Franklin Theater in downtown Franklin, Tennessee. And Franklin is like a little bedroom community just outside of Nashville. It's about, I'd say, 13 or 15 miles outside of Nashville. And it's just a beautiful, old, charming southern town. And actually, the theater had, it was built in 1937, and it had kind of got a little bit run down over the years, but in the past, I'd say about the past 5 or 6 years, the Historic Society got really involved, and our whole community got involved in the theater, and everybody donated and contributed things like their talents to bring the theater back to its former glory. And it is just a beautiful theater. It's really a performing arts center, but they still do show movies there as well.
I love that. We live in a society where they tend to tear down all the old stuff and build new things, and it's really nice when they preserve things because buildings like that are just not made that way anymore.
They're really not, and you can't recreate that kind of history. And it's just like the Ryman Auditorium. You can feel the spirit and the history and the soul of that place when you walk into it. And it's the same way with the Franklin Theater. And now, Franklin is an area where a lot of artists and songwriters gravitate to, to live. It's one of the areas in Nashville, and you'd be surprised some of the names of artists who love to play at the Franklin Theater.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, we'll certainly put that information on our Facebook page, and I assume you're doing a Christmas show there for that?
Yeah, Saturday night, December the 15th, it's Deborah Allen's Rockin' Little Christmas, and there's still a few tickets left. Tickets have been selling fast, and I'm excited about that, but we still have a few left, and you can get those at franklintheater.com, and you spell it Franklin, Franklin, and theater is theatre.com.
Perfect. I'll make sure we share that information. And you can also get information at deborallen.com, which is Deborah's official website as well on that. And
that's right.
You have a kid's book, from what I understand, too, and it's a Christmas type book, right?
Yes, it's a children's book that I wrote years ago, and it's an interesting story about that book. I didn't even mean to write it. It was like a gift from God. I just had this great big art pad and this fancy pen, and I started writing Once Upon a Time. And 4 days later, I had written the book. I would write until I couldn't think of anything. I didn't know what was going to happen, so I'd go, oh, well, I'll find out what happens tomorrow. And I wake up the next day, and I go, oh, I know what happens. And I wrote the book, but I really didn't know what to do with it for years. I pursued, some publishers. One of the publishers said, well, we love your book. We love your style of writing, but, we think the hero should be different. And I'm like, well, I didn't even mean to write the book, and since it was a gift from God, I'm just going to let the hero remain the same, and I'll just wait. So, I didn't go with that publisher, and then another publisher would, have another critique, and another publisher said, well, you need to get you an illustrator. So for one reason or another, many years went by, and not too long ago, I was writing with my good friend Tiggs Brooks, and I was asking him about his kids, and he said, have you ever seen my daughter's artwork, Deborah, Molly? I said, no, huh? He goes, you ought to check out her website. And I said, okay. Well, I went to her website, and it was so beautiful and so unusual, too. It had a lot of heart and soul. I went, hey, maybe she'd be good for my book. So I called her up and asked her if I could read my book to her. And she said, sure, I'd love to hear it. Well, she's really an interesting person. And when I was reading her the book, as she would listen, she'd like go, oh, wow. You know, she was really responding to the book. And at the end of it, she said, when did you write this book, Deborah? And I said, oh, Molly, I'm almost embarrassed to tell you when I wrote this, but I wrote it in 1986. She goes, that's the year that I was born. You're kidding me. And she said, no, and I was born on Christmas Eve. I went,
wow.
oh, my gosh, Molly, I remember the night that you were born. It was a really big deal around our town, you know, and our group of people that we all hung out with. I said, everybody was so excited that Barbara and Kix had a little girl named Molly. It's all coming back to me now. I said, oh, I hope you want to do the artwork. She goes, oh, I do.
Wow, that is really cool. You know, some years ago, back, I'm going to say about 2003 or so, I was working in a local music store here in Traverse City, Michigan, and we have a summer camp here called Interlock, and it's a music camp. And all of a sudden, Kix Brooks walks in the store, and I would have never recognized him because he had a baseball cap on. The only reason I knew who it was is he forgot to take his name tag off. Apparently, they were in orientation, and Molly went to Interlochen for that summer.
Wow, that's so cool that you met her.
Yeah, and that's really, gosh, small world. And they do, you know, they have a lot of artists that go there and a lot of musicians, and it's a world famous place, and they have a lot of people there every year. And so that's who I got to meet. So that's really cool that she did that artwork for you.
That is so neat, and you know, that just goes to show you how it's just one of the mysteries of life. You know, it's like for some reason kept bumping into a wall when I would try to get my book published, but then suddenly years later, I just happened to ask Kix, and there was his daughter. It was perfect. You know, and so actually that book came out a couple of years ago, but what we're doing is this year we're reissuing it, and what's different is I've done a spoken word version of it where I read the book.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like a slideshow type movie, and you see all the artwork as I tell the story. And you can download it from Amazon.com. In a couple of days it'll be there.
Oh, fabulous. Fabulous.
Actually, I'm approving the final cut of it tonight, and then it'll be on Amazon.com and at DeborahAllen.com. And so you can actually see the book and hear me read it, too.
Oh, that's cool. And it's called The Loneliest Christmas Tree, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure is.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, as if that isn't enough, you are also involved in a new movie, I understand.
I am. I am so excited about the movie. I mean, I'm thrilled to be in it, and I'm also really excited for my friend Mark Nicolosi, who directed it, because Mark and I go way back. He was the editor of a lot of music videos for our dear friend Sherman Halsey, who's no longer with us, but Sherman directed all those Dwight, and actually discovered Dwight Yoakam and helped create that image through the videos, and also all those Tim McGraw videos. And Mark was like Sherman's right-hand man. He did all the editing, and he edited a video for me, and we just hit it off. And I invited him to co-direct one of my videos, and Mark told me that was his first directorial debut, was on the video that he did with me. But this will be his first full-length feature movie, and I'm just so proud of him. And the leading role is played by Loretta Lynn's granddaughter. Her name is Taylor Lynn. And Dwayne Allen from the Oak Ridge Boys.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and I actually played the role of Dwayne's wife in the movie.
Oh, cool. That's really cool. And it's called The Least of These, is that right?
It is. It's a faith-based movie, and it's around Christmas time, so it's a perfect Christmas movie, but it's got such a wonderful message in it that it's a movie that would be good for any time of the year, but it's perfect for Christmas.
Oh, wonderful. We'll definitely keep an eye out for that. That's fabulous. Folks, I'm talking with Deborah Allen. You can visit her at deborallen.com. It's so nice to have her. I'm Scott Weichel. You're listening to My Kind of Country. Man, I'll tell you, that's fabulous. Glad to hear that. Deborah, I want to ask about some things in your career, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the song that everybody wants to ask you about, but I do have one question on that song, and of course I'm talking about Baby I Lied.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, that was released on RCA Records, but was that something that your previous label, Capitol, had turned down?
Well, actually, I had recorded it, you're right, for Capitol Records, and it was kind of near the end of, the term of my contract. And they had had an executive changeover. It was Paul Atkinson had been my person out there on the, in L.A. that had signed me. And I also had a representative here, too. But they just, I wound up recording Baby I Lied out there. But he got transferred to EMI, and then another guy took his place. Well, the new guy, his name was Don Gerson, he also really loved Sheena Easton. And when he heard my song, he was like, Deborah, we would love to record this on Sheena Easton or, Juice Newton. And I said, well, I know that, their momentum is going right now, and it'd be a lot easier to have a hit on them than me, but for me, this is like the best thing I've ever written and been a part of, and I've been trying to find something strong enough to, break my career, and I feel like this is it. And I said, so I really would prefer not to do that. I want to put it out. I said, but I don't want you to put it out and not get behind it, and I have a top 40 flop,
Yeah.
I mean, that would be just as bad as not getting to have it at all as a songwriter and as an artist. And he said, well, I just don't know. I don't know what we'd follow it up with. And I said, I don't know either, but I'm not worried about that right now. He goes, and I don't know who, that for some reason, I love Charlie Colello, who produced the song. But for some reason, they were like always wanting me to find somebody, the next person that I would work with. We never could decide on somebody. And so he goes, I said, well, look, I said, if you don't really know what to do with it, I really do believe in it, and I would like to have it for myself. And since we're at the end of my term, if I were to not remain with Capitol, could I take that song with me? He said, well, we can't just give it to you. I said, well, sure, of course not, but how much would it cost? He goes, well, I believe it was like right at $12,000. And I said, if I found somebody that would want to buy it for that price, would you sell it? They said, yes, we could do that. And I said, okay. So that very day I hung up and I called, well, at first I tried to call Joe Galante, and I called his office at RCA. And I said, I'd like to speak with Joe Galante, please. And they said, oh, I'm sorry, Joe is in Europe, and he won't be back for a couple of months. I went, oh, okay, well, thank you. And then I thought, what am I going to do now? So I thought, oh, I know, I'll call Tony Brown, because Tony was my friend. I called up Tony and said, Tony, I've got some new music. I'd love to come play you. Could I make an appointment? He goes, what are you doing this afternoon around 3 o'clock? I said, I can be there. He goes, come on down. So we had cut with Charlie. I had recorded 4 songs, played all four of them for Tony. But when it came to Baby I Lied, he turned that chair around and he goes, what's going on with this one? Well, actually, I recorded it with Capitol. I said, but I'm not going to be on Capitol. And I said, and Don Gerson has assured me, and I believe him, and I don't think he's a liar. I think he's telling the truth. I believe that he will sell it for $12,000. He goes, let's go down and play it for Joe. I go, oh, no, Joe's in Europe. He goes, bullshit, he's right down the hall. That's Tony. That's a Tony Brown quote, okay? And anyway, we went down the hall and we looked for Joe, but we never did find him. And he said, well, he goes, don't worry about it. I'm going to play it for him. He said, I love this. He goes, and I want to sign this. I want to do this. And I said, okay. And so, the rest just kind of unfolded like magic. I'll never forget, this is so, just to show you how green I was sitting in Joe's office. He goes, well, of course, we'd like to start off by sending you down to a tour of Texas. We, put you together with some of our promoters down there. And I said, okay. I said, that sounds good, but now I'm not sure that I could afford to travel all over Texas. Are we driving or flying? He goes, you just don't worry about that part. We'll do the promoting. You do the singing. I mean, that just shows you how naive I was. But, my naivety was and is still one of my biggest assets. I just never got over believing that all things are possible with God, and just He doesn't put dreams in your heart for no reason at all.
That's right.
It's like the Holy Spirit whispering to you all the time, going, "Do it. I want you to be all you can be." So it's just, I don't know. I love life for that very reason. Yeah, I have been disappointed many times and been very, very heartbroken from the ups and downs of the music business. But I've also been just astounded with the wondrous, amazing things that happen when you just follow through and then sometimes just step back and let things happen.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Well, you have had a tremendously wonderful career and continue to do so. And one of the things that I am very impressed is you've had over 1,600 songs published, and you have some songs that a lot of people probably don't know about that you have written and co-written that were big hits. And we were talking about Kix Brooks earlier, and I know that you co-wrote John Conley's "I'm Only in It for the Love" with him.
Yeah, I love that. I do that song in my show every time. I told Kix, I said, man, I still do our song in my show. He said, that's great. And I'll be doing it on the Christmas show. I do a little medley of some of my number one hits that I've had and that have turned out to be million airplay songs for BMI. But, yeah, I'm Only in It for the Love for John Conley. My first number one record was for Janie Fricke. That was Don't Worry About Me, Baby.
Oh, I love that one. Yeah.
So I wrote that with Bruce Chanel, who wrote Hey Baby, and Kieran Kane of the O'Kanes. And I wrote Let's Stop Talking About It was another number one for Janie Fricke, and it's a million airplay song. And also Can I See You Tonight for Tanya Tucker, which was a number one and million airplay song. And then also Patty Loveless. I got a double treat on that one because not only did Patty record Hurt Me Bad in a real good way, but she also invited me to sing on it too with her, so it was a double treat.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. One of the songs, I know you recorded this first, and Conway Twitty released this on his last album. It's called Final Touches. The album is called I Hurt For You, or the song is called. And I absolutely love that song. It's one of my favorites.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's one of my favorite songs, too. That is a song that is on my, let's see, it's on my Cheat the Night album, my mini LP, the one with Baby I Lied on it. Yeah, that song I really enjoy singing, and it was just such an honor for me, for Conway to record that song. I'll never forget being at the American Music Awards show, and when Dick Clark called my name, and I went up on the stage, they were playing Baby I Lied, and Conway turned around and kind of squinted his eyes together and gave me the double thumbs up, like, yeah. I'll never forget him doing that. And then, he also recorded another song of mine called You Never Cross My Mind, You Stay There All the Time. He did that as a duet with Loretta.
Yeah, that's a good one, too.
Yeah.
Conway had such a great knack for finding great songs, and those are two of them right there, no doubt about it. You also recorded a duet with George Jones that I love. It was on his Ladies' Choice album. It was called Our Love Is Ahead of Its Time.
Yeah, I wrote that song with one of the most legendary songwriters in country music, and that is my good friend Bobby Braddock.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I had heard that George was doing a duet album, and I was hanging out with Bobby. I said, oh, man, I wish I could sing with George. He goes, you should be singing with George. So we wrote that song and took it out and played it for George, and he loved it. And next thing you know, I was in the studio with George singing Our Love Was Ahead of Its Time. You can hear it on YouTube. It's not a video, but you can hear the music of it. I'll never forget it. He said, I'm going to call you the Giggling Girl Singer. Having so much fun. And then, you know what? I think I might have been the only person. There might have been one other person. Brenda Lee was there that day, and she probably sang hers live too, because she's a great singer. But he told me, he said, you're one of the few people who are singing, you know, live, not overdubbing. And when I was standing there at the microphone with him, he goes, where'd you learn to sing with so much heart? And I thought, wow, I can't believe George Jones is saying that to me, because if anybody's got heart and soul, it's the king of country music.
Amen. Wow, that's really cool. What a great story. I love it.
You know what else can I tell you about it? They wanted us to do liners. They wanted liner notes like the old style albums.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget it. My mother was at my house, and we were upstairs, and we were getting ready to take a nap. And I said, Mother, I've got to think of a special liner note for George Jones. I mean, it's got to be great, because he is great. So I laid down, we took a nap, and all of a sudden I just sprang up out of the bed, and I just sat up in the bed, and I go, I've got it. She goes, what? I said, I've got my liner note. She said, what? And I said, we are all God's own individual works of art. In country music, George Jones is his masterpiece. And she said, Deborah, that's it. And it was it.
Oh, wow.
I loved George. I loved him so much. And I loved Nancy, too. They were just, you know, the salt of the earth. And I still love Nancy. I see her, you know, off and on around town here.
Yeah, great lady. I was very blessed to get to know them through the years, and George was great, and Nancy continues to be just a wonderful lady, and never forgets me. She always throws her arms around me and gives me a big hug every time I see her. That's a really cool thing.
That's the way she is.
Absolutely. I know we're talking about duets a lot, but I wanted to ask you about, you did some duets. This was obviously after he long passed away, but these were big hits. Don't Let Me Cross Over and several other ones with Jim Reeves.
You know what, Scott? That's when I learned the meaning of the word posthumous. I went, what? Okay, all right. But anyway, yeah, I had been singing at a party one night, and Bud Logan, who used to play in Jim Reeves' band, his engineer just happened to hear me sing. And the next day, Bud Logan called me up and said, hey, we're doing a duet album on Jim Reeves. Would you be interested in singing on it? And I went, you mean, are you talking about Jim Reeves, the one who sang Put Your Sweet Lips a Little Closer to the Phone? You'll have to go? He goes, yeah. I mean, I said, I thought he's no longer with us, right? He goes, yeah, but we're going to try out this new technology. It's overdub technology. It's going to be the first time it's ever been used. And I went, oh, okay, well, let's do it. So, once again, Joe Galante, with his amazing marketing skills and imagination, since I really hadn't had much out at all, you know, for anyone to know who I was, he marketed me as the mystery girl and kind of ran a contest. Of course, no one could figure out who I was because they hadn't heard me before. But we had, like, I think we had 3 top 5 songs, or it's top 10 or top 5, I can't remember, but we had out Don't Let Me Cross Over, Love's Cheating Line. We had out Oh, How I Miss You Tonight, Take Me in Your Arms and Hold Me. Those were all big hits. And then the other 2 were I Fall to Pieces, but my favorite one was When Two Worlds Collide.
Yeah,
because
that was beautiful.
I really had a special moment in the studio. I really felt Jim Reeves' spirit in that room with me. It was just a big, dark, black as night studio. The only light in there was the light shining directly over the lyrics. And when Jim and I sang together, "That's what happens when two worlds collide." I got chills all over me, and I thought, oh my gosh, two worlds really are colliding. I know he's with me right now.
Wow. That is really something else. The reason I brought that up, just the other day, I had played Don't Let Me Cross Over on my station, and one of my listeners in England contacted me, and he had never heard that version before, and he was absolutely enthralled with it. And I said, well, it was Deborah Allen and Jim Reeves. So.
Wow, well, if you ever hear from him again, tell him I said thank you. Hey, you know where Jim Reeves is really popular? He's really, really popular. Well, all over the world, but I found out recently he is very loved in India.
Yeah, and South Africa, too.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
well, because recently a promoter from India called me, and they're trying to work out some dates for me to come to India because I sang, the duets with Jim.
That's amazing. That's amazing. His career has gone on long since he's passed away, and he was very popular through the 70s and 80s, and still to this day, there's still new music coming out on Jim Reeves, and it's pretty amazing. He's had a career that's lasted this long. Him and Elvis, I guess.
Exactly. That's my hometown hero, Elvis Presley.
Absolutely. Well, I am going to play some of your great hit songs, and I want to play some of those duets too. "Rock Me in the Cradle of Love" is another one that I love. "I've Been Wrong Before." That's another great song. That was I think #2 for you in '84. Is that right?
Yeah, it went #2 in Billboard, and it went #1 in Cashbox, so we still call it a #1.
All right. Well, that's a #1 then, absolutely. And I have a 45. This is probably kind of a rare thing. I know in your early days you worked with Jim Stafford, and I think this is probably your first recording. It's called "Do You Copy?"
Oh my gosh, yes. I was on Jim Stafford's show. It was his summer replacement show on ABC. I met him when he came to Nashville. It was when I had just gotten back from Russia, and we were doing a TV special at Opryland with Sandy Dennis and Jim Stafford. That's where I met him. And his producer saw me in the Opryland troupe, and he said I really stood out, and they wanted me to come and be on Jim's show. So I did. And while I was out there, we were at a party, all of us, one night, and I heard these comedians sing this song called "Do You Copy?" And I just kind of jokingly told Jim and Phil Gernhardt, his producer, I said, wow, that song was so great. I said, now that could be a country hit. Well, 2 days later, they had me on a plane flying back to Nashville, and we recorded it live. It was almost like direct-to-disc. It was so live with all the A-Team players and singers, and it's called "Do You Copy?"
Wow.
And, you're probably one of the only people, probably the third person that I've met that actually knows it. Usually if anyone hears about it, I'll tell them about it, and they'll go, really? The only other person, the first person I ever knew that knew of it was a DJ named Crazy Eddie, and he was down in New Orleans, and then recently another lady knew it, and now you know it, so that's cool.
That's cool. Well, I not only know it, but we're going to play it tonight, too.
All right.
So everybody will get to hear it. Well, Deborah...
There's all over the world.
Absolutely. We're going to get it out there. Folks, you can go to DeborahAllen.com. She has some wonderful music available there, including her Rockin' Little Christmas album, the Hear Me Now album, which came out just a few years ago, and, of course, some great hit collections, and the book is there. All sorts of wonderful things, and I encourage you to go see Deborah at the Franklin Theater on December 15th, and we'll put that information on our Facebook page as well. And, Deborah, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed this conversation with you, and I certainly hope we have a chance to visit again.
Oh, I definitely hope so. Maybe we can visit around Elvis's birthday, because one of my favorite things is a song called "Amazing Graceland," and I know you probably have to go, but someday we can talk about that one too.
Well, let's talk about it. We got a minute?
Oh, you want to talk about it now?
Absolutely. Why not?
Okay. Well, it's actually, I include that song in my Christmas show because, one of the most beautiful places on earth to be during Christmas is at Graceland. They have that beautiful white mansion with the blue light shining on it, and then Elvis singing all those wonderful Christmas songs. But I grew up in Memphis, and, we used to pass by Graceland all the time. We would look up. We could see Elvis up there riding horses in the front yard with his friends. The gates would would be open, we'd be like, oh, I wonder who's there. Or if we were out at McKellar Lake, I remember one time my mother said, hey, there's Elvis over there on the sandbar with that old Ann Margaret. And, if my mother likes you, she'll put O in front of it. Like she says, I love that old Delbert McClinton. That's just her. That's a loving kind of a figure of speech for her. But Elvis was just always in our midst. And George Klein was his best friend. And I'm sure you know that George Klein is that famous DJ who was Elvis's best friend. And
Yep.
Elvis was even his best man in his wedding. And as soon as I got 16 years old, I could not wait to go over and audition for George Klein's TV show, Dance Party. And I got the part, and so I became one of his WHB cuties.
Oh, wow.
So that's part of my Memphis history. But George, Elvis had gotten a brand new bus, and George told Elvis, he called him E. He said, E, you need to take that bus over to Leon Thurman's automobile upholstery shop. I mean, they do good work over there. And so they got the bus over there. And, of course, my mother is an incredible designer, too. And she and Daddy designed the interior of that bus together. But Elvis is all of the Memphis Mafia, his cronies, best friends, kept hanging out at the shop. And it always caused such a commotion. Daddy couldn't get any work done. So he was like, I'm going to take that bus out of here. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to have to take it. I can't get anything done with y'all hanging around all day long. So he did. He wound up taking it out of there. And he brought it out to our house. And I was just a little kid, about 3 or 4 years old. And my sister Judy and I camped out in the bus. We ate all of Elvis's ice cubes. He had these matchboxes with EP on it. But let me tell you, when my parents got finished with that bus, it was glorious looking. It was royal blue with gold trim, and in the back where the bed was, it was a royal blue velvet bedspread, and then it had this big gold medallion in the middle of it with a beautiful cursive EP right in the middle of the medallion. It was beautiful. And I always laugh and say, well, I got to live every girl's dream. I got to spend the night in Elvis's bed.
That's right.
But I was just a little 3 or 4 year old girl, so I guess it doesn't really count. But it still is every girl's dream.
I love it. What a great memory.
So what I wanted to tell you, I know I went around the block to tell you this story. I'm sorry, but
that's all right. It was a good trip.
I'm still. Well, we're almost to around the whole block. Here's what happened when I moved to Nashville. That's when I heard about Elvis passing away. And I was so devastated. And then one day opened his house up for people to take tours through it. I just could not bring myself to go traipsing through Elvis's house. It just felt like it was sacred ground, and I just didn't feel right. But about 4 years ago, I got the opportunity to perform at Graceland. It was a corporation. They had rented out the entire estate. And so I thought, well, I think it's okay if I go now. And so I'm telling you, Scott, when I put my toe in that front door, I just felt his spirit just envelop me. And at every room I went through the house, it was like I could just see his whole life just unfolding in front of my eyes. And so I did my show that night, and then Raymond, my husband, and I, we headed back to Nashville. And on the way back, I just was still kind of mesmerized and stunned. I was like, I can't get over that. That was amazing. That was just amazing. And all of a sudden, I said, oh, my gosh, Amazing Graceland. I said, I got to get home. I got to write that song. And, I mean, as soon as I put my hand on that doorknob at my back door, I opened it up and went straight to my piano. And it was probably about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I sat there until sunup, and I wrote the song, Amazing Graceland. And so, it's a part of my Christmas show, too. And my goal with writing the song was Elvis was just such a magnanimous person, not just musically, but as a human being. I just wanted to write something that he would be proud of. And so it's just one of my favorite songs to sing.
Fabulous, fabulous. Well, we're going to play that tonight too. That sounds great. What a great story. I love it. Thank you so much for telling me that.
Well, thank you for listening. I didn't know that was going to come out, but yeah, I'm so glad too. And you know what? I just want to thank you so much for having me on your show. I mean, I think what you're doing right now with country music and making sure that the so many great legacies of country music never die, and that you're shining a light on so many great artists and great songs. I just think that that's something wonderful, and that there's a special place in country music heaven for you, because you are doing something very, very wonderful.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, and it's been a true honor to have you on the show. And your music will always have a home here at My Kind of Country, and I look forward to visiting with you again. And I want to wish you and your husband and your family a Merry Christmas, and God bless all of you.
Thank you, and we want to wish you and your family and all your listeners all around the world a very Merry Christmas. In fact, a rockin' little Christmas. And I just want to wish you all a lot of love, and God bless you all too.
Oh, thank you so much. DeborahAllen.com is the place to go. Pick up some of her great music, and we're going to stay in touch, by gosh, and keep track of all the wonderful things you got going on. And we're going to play some of your great music for our listeners right now as we continue with My Kind of Country here on MKOCRadio.com. Thank you again, Deborah.
Thank you, Scott.